I hear some people say, like, a cop on a car stop is always walking up paranoid that they're about to be killed,
Yes, that's why I'm asking these things.
right? Like they're on edge. They have a hair trigger. They're ready to kill somebody.
So you mentioned you go, let's say, to a area where there's like drug dealing and everything, and you park sort of on a corner. When you're sitting in a car, what are your feelings like? Are you scared? Do you think, are you on a lookout? Are you a little bit paranoid? Like, what does that look like, man?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely on a heightened alert. Like, we learn about the different levels of alertness, more or less, right? Like a green level is me right now sitting in my kitchen with my doors locked, nobody around. I have no concern that I'm going to be attacked or shot or anything, right? And then you have like a yellow level, which is you're sitting in a high crime neighborhood in a marked police car. You're looking around. You're not staring at your phone on Instagram. You're looking around. You're paying attention to the cars that are driving by, the people that are walking up. And then a red level would be, hey, I'm in the middle of a gunfight right now, right? So you're definitely on that yellow level of alert, looking around, making sure things are safe. You mentioned a specific word, afraid or scared.
Mhm.
I can't remember a time when, in the heat of the moment, I was afraid. It's like you're well trained, you're well equipped, you go into the situation and you handle it, right? This is your job, you go handle your job. Afterwards, you're like, ooh, that was a bit of a hairy situation. Maybe I
Mhm.
should have done it this way. Maybe I should have done it that way, right? So in hindsight, you're like, okay, yeah, that was a little dangerous. But in the heat of the moment, it's like, look, you got a job to do. That's it in front of you. You go do it.
So do you think that it's a personal trait that you have combined with training? Because I know that a lot of police officers are, for the lack of a better term, paranoid. Because, but you're saying you're in a dangerous situation. Somehow you're able to block all of the normal human, survival mechanisms. Um, like, so do you think it's something that is a part of who you are, combined with the training, or it was your training in totality that allowed you to be this sort of a officer?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think it's a little bit of both. And I have to say, I've never been involved in a shooting where somebody's shooting at me, right? So maybe that's maybe I would have reacted differently there. But in all these other situations I've been in, I'm made gun arrests and car chases and foot chases. Um, here's something I think kind of maybe can tie up what you're asking. I hear some people say, like, a cop on a car stop is always walking up paranoid that they're about to be killed,
Yes, that's why I'm asking these things.
right? Like they're on edge. They have a hair trigger. They're ready to kill somebody. It's just not true. You're in that yellow level of alert. You're looking, before you walk up to that car, you're looking through the window to see where their hands are, what they're doing. But you're not like, oh my God, I'm going to kill this person. You're just on that yellow level of alert of, look, there might be nothing in that car. There might be something in that car, but I'm trained to look for it. I can react appropriately. I'm using the tactics that I know work through my training and through prior officers being involved in similar situations, right? So you're not walking up there paranoid and ready to kill somebody. You're walking up there on a yellow level of alert, making sure that, yeah, it's probably nothing, but if it is something, I can react to it appropriately.
Uh, the reason, like, I think that these things are extremely important, and I'm kind of glad because you said you haven't been in a gunfight, but to me, you sitting in that unsafe neighborhood in a marked car, I think the moment from when you're just sitting there to a gunfight is literally could be a second. It could happen
Yeah,
anytime, you know?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, from what I remember, you did some undercover work.
Very, very little. When I was very new, there was a unit that wanted to do some prostitution stings that they arrested prostitutes and also Johns, picking up prostitutes. So since I was a new cop and young, and none of the prostitutes knew me, they put me a few times in plain clothes and went out and picked up some prostitutes. And I got to say, I'm not sure if you're going in this direction, but I just got to chime in with something here. Knowing what I know now about addiction and prostitution and human trafficking to what I knew then in 1995, I wish we would have handled the prostitution arrests differently. Um,
Mm,
these are prostitutes on the street, right? This isn't like Las Vegas in some hotel where nobody sees. These are drug addicted prostitutes walking the streets of Trenton. So it's bad for the neighborhood. But just arresting these girls and giving them a charge and then sending them out the door or holding them for a couple of days until they see a judge didn't accomplish anything. What I wish we had done was arrest these girls just like we did back then, but immediately hook them up with counselors who could help them with their drug addiction, with their, they would be more likely to admit to a counselor than to a uniformed police officer who just arrested them that they were being sex trafficked. So I wish we had given them other resources than just arrest them.
I'm so glad that you said this, man. This again shows me your your good hearted nature, man. I'm so glad to hear this, and I think whoever watches this will be happy to hear that we have and have had such police officers, because again, there's a really big disconnection between the population nowadays and the police officers. So what does that look like? You put on civilian clothes, like is it nighttime, like what does this look like, man?
Yeah, just like you said. So again, I'm brand new, right? So they don't trust me yet to go out and do this on my own. So I'm working with a more senior police officer. He was a black guy. Obviously, I'm a white guy. We're both in plain clothes. We're driving a plain pickup truck. It's not, doesn't look like a police car in any way. The police department owns it, but it's got regular license plates. Looks just like a regular old pickup truck, and legally we are allowed to talk to each other to develop a plan prior to what we're going to go out there and do. So while we're sitting in a pickup truck in the parking lot, we decide who we are and how we know each other and what we're looking for from the girls.
So you have to come up with a story.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. So we come up with the story, and this way, when we pull up to the girls, because these girls aren't idiots. They they're looking out for not only cops but also people who are going to hurt them, right? So they ask questions. They don't just jump right into a stranger's car. So you pull up to a girl that you suspect is out there, acting as a prostitute, and you start talking to them. And usually it's not the first thing that comes up is, what are you looking for? It's, how you guys doing today? Oh, what are you doing? You have a conversation just like any other stranger would. And then eventually it gets to the sex for something of value, and that's when they get arrested.
So do you wear a wire like do you have to wear a wire?
We were not at that time. Now they probably would. I don't remember the last time Trenton did a prostitution sting, but yeah, they would probably have some kind of recording device, particularly considering body cameras are so prevalent. You wouldn't be wearing a body camera, obviously, but some kind of covert device would.
But at that time, you're not wearing a wire. How do you know that you're doing everything according to law?
um you're trusting your senior guy to guide you through that, and then on top of that you have a sergeant and usually a lieutenant running this whole operation, right? So after you have this encounter with the prostitute, um everybody's back at headquarters with all the arrestees and all the cops, and now you're hashing out, okay, this person said this. And let me back up a little bit. Immediately after that interaction, you're taking some quick notes, right? So now when you're sitting down and you have 5 or 10 people you arrested, you have this list of chronological notes that you can refer back to. And now you're talking to your senior guy, you're talking to your sergeant and your lieutenant, and now you're hashing out what the charges are, you know, what legally was said and transpired. And um, when you have all those levels, 99% of the time things work the way they should.
So you guys had to do a lot of work back then, man. It's not like
Oh, still
nowadays.
now, still now, man.
Yeah, but now you have the body cam, you have all this technology, man. Like, I didn't realize this. Like, you had to take notes, man, like on a
I would
piece of paper.
say, I would say technology changed things a little bit, but didn't necessarily make it easier. Just made it different. That's all.
Mm.
You know, when I started, I mean, we were handwriting reports. So if I
Wow.
had a burglary report with 100 things stolen, I wrote down by hand and a pen the 100 things that were stolen.
Um, so okay, so you're in this unmarked car. How do you guys get these unmarked cars? Like, how does that fit in with? Do you like? Do you just pick one up from your yard or whatever? Like, I forget what do you call those
The
yards, man?
yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. There's a few different ways police departments get cars. Believe it or not, they can rent them from Enterprise or things like that. They have budgets specifically for unmarked cars, not just like unmarked, but still a police car, but just like flat out, undercover cars. They can, if you impound a car from somebody who gained that car through criminal activity, you can seize that car, and that car could get transferred to the department. Actually, the way it works in New Jersey is the county, like if a municipality seizes something, the county has overall control of it, and then the county will distribute that back to different departments, right? So in Mercer County, I think I want to say there's 12 municipalities in Mercer County. Um, any of those police departments can seize property, and then the county has control over that property, and then the county sends that property back to different departments based on their needs.
So listen, there's this whole myth on the streets. If a civilian asks you, "Are you a police officer?" You're legally obligated to tell them that you is that true, man? Like,
I've never seen any kind of law that requires that, constitutional or criminal. I don't know where it comes from, but I've
so you have heard about it, right?
seen it in movies, yeah, but I've never seen any kind of reality that requires that. I mean, if that's the case, Donnie Brasco being undercover with the mob for 30 years, one guy says, "Hey, are you a cop?" and it blows the whole operation. And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, exactly.
legally otherwise.
But also legally, police officers are allowed to lie while during a
Yes. So what they are allowed to do is lie, but not make up evidence, right? So let's say I'm interrogating a burglary suspect. I can sit down across from that suspect and say, we got you. We have your fingerprints all over that burglary location. What I can't do is walk in that room with a fingerprint card and say, here's all your fingerprints on that, right? I can't make up evidence, but
I
I
got, I got you. When you were doing this undercover stings, did you guys actually make some arrests?
oh yeah, yeah. dozens every time we went out.
Oh wow, this is good. So what are these mostly young women like?
So I was involved with this, in the late '90s and early 2000s. So I can't speak to necessarily what's happening out there now. But at that time, it was mostly young women who were addicted to drugs. There were um, some from the trans community out there. Some men dressed as women. Um, and I actually asked one once, like, "Do your Johns know what you are biologically?" And every time it was, not only do they know, they come looking for me specifically.
Wow.
Yep.
Um, so because you said they are being sex trafficked, not in all cases
No,
these women are sex trafficked, right?
no, not in all cases. And
But
yeah,
I'm sorry, but from what you seen and what you experienced, they have some sort of a addiction problem, right?
yeah, I can't imagine. I can't remember any prostitute that I encountered who wasn't addicted to drugs.
Wow. Within those, I think you said 5 years before you became a sergeant, you were so for those 5 years, you're a patrol
Yes.
officer. Okay. Besides that very first horrendous day on your job, I don't feel, I feel sorry for you, man. That's, something. But what are some other things that have happened in those 5 years where maybe you questioned if you wanted to continue doing this? Maybe you questioned some of your human morals. Like, can you remember any incidences that pop out in your mind right now, like some crazy times?